We're going to talk about the AFC West after the Tyreek Hill trade and then Davante Adams just a couple days ago. This division is on full-blown crack. Crack cocaine, methamphetamine. It is unbelievable how this division has changed since the end of the 2021 season. Now, as for who is going to win the division, I think it's still the Chiefs because you have a guy named Patrick Mahomes who has won 6 straight, a division record, looking for 7. But who's to say? We're going to find out what the Chiefs are maybe not made of without Tyreek Hill there. I don't expect, Patrick Mahomes to just fall off a cliff. But if you think he's the same QB without Tyreek Hill, I've got some bad news for you. So with the AFC in mind here, let's ask this question early on. Who's the favorite now, right? Who's going to win it, you think? If you think it's the Chiefs, give me their initials. The Chargers, they got Khalil Mack from the Bears. The Broncos, of course, with Russell Wilson. Or maybe you want to talk yourself into the Raiders with Derek Carr and Davante Adams bringing some of that Fresno State energy to the Sin City. I'll be a homer, and I'll go with the Denver Broncos because they have the most complete roster, I would say. And you look at Russell Wilson and the weapons he has now as opposed to Mahomes not having Tyreek Hill. I mean, Russell Wilson was throwing with his boys yesterday. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, Al and some other guys as well. And it looked pretty fun on his IG story. They're building a nice defense with Randy Gregory, hoping to get a good 2019 or 2018 season out of Bradley Chubb, Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain on that back end of the DB spot. The Broncos seem like they are the most complete roster, at least in this division. Let's revisit all the trades within the division that has really just completely changed the landscape of the West. The Dolphins get Tyreek Hill from Kansas City, so now the Chiefs look to slightly retool on offense. Maybe go draft a new wide receiver, have him for Travis Kelce's last couple seasons. And then Davante Adams goes from Green Bay to the Las Vegas Raiders. And all of a sudden, Derek Carr gets a top guy to really work with. Not that he hasn't had good receivers, but he hasn't had anyone that could touch Davante Adams. And then Khalil Mack goes on over to the Chargers to pair up with Bosa and what they've got going on their defensive side of things. And, of course, Justin Herbert, one of the most ascending quarterbacks in the NFL, although I think he gets a little overhyped personally. I see him way too often in top 5 language. I don't think he's quite there yet. And then best for last, the Broncos getting Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks. Giving up more than any other team did of all the other trades pretty much, but a trade they had to make because of all the talent they had on their roster that was probably going to go to waste with another incompetent play from a quarterback in what would be 6 straight seasons, something like that, since Peyton Manning retired. So at the end of the day, I think it's a great move by all teams except for the Chiefs, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But make sure you're subscribed to the Broncos Breakdown because when trades like this happens, we get on the case. We're breaking it down for you. We're looking at the whole AFC West, not just honing in on Denver, but seeing how these moves relate to the Broncos. Because in the NFL now, you play 17 games. 6 of those games are against your division rivals. So you have to know your enemy to keep up with them. With those trades in mind, though, which AFC West team had the best trade? Is it going to be the Broncos, Raiders, or the Chargers? I think the Chargers is probably third to last. The Chiefs is last. They gave up Tyreek Hill. But I think Broncos is number 1. I go Broncos 1, and then I go Raiders. Those are my top 2 teams right there. But let me know in the comment section which AFC West team had the best trade. Like I said, Broncos number 1, Raiders number 2. I'll go Chargers 3 and Chiefs 4. Now, let's not forget, the Chiefs did get Tyreek Hill later in the draft. I think it was a day 3 pick. Now, he had some, skeletons in his closet, to say the least, during his time in college. So that was a big reason why he did slip in the draft process. But maybe Kansas City falls in love with the wide receiver. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? It's Tyreek Hill all over again. Here we go. For me, I think the AFC playoff race starts week 1. And what I mean by that, there's no time to mess around in the AFC this year. Every team has improved, it looks like. They're taking all the goods from the NFC and putting it in the AFC. So there's no room to get off to an 0-2 stumble and catch up down the stretch. The race for the playoffs is going to be, from the start, a full-blown sprint. I don't see a team, for example, in the NFC last season, like the Eagles, who got hot. What did they win? 6 out of their last 7 or 6 out of their last 8 to make that 7th spot in the wild card race? I don't see that happening this year. If you stumble and you trip out of the gates, you might as well be done. With 4 teams in the AFC West, how many do you think will make the playoffs? Minimum 2, I think. Let me know how many you think in the comment section. Could be more. In fact, if they had it their way, the players, I think it'd be all 4 teams, right? Derek Carr made the playoffs last season with the Raiders, and having a like their roster only got better this offseason. And they may not make the playoffs despite improving in the offseason. How often do you see that happen? A playoff team get better, but they didn't get better enough. Everyone else passed them. They were jogging, and everyone else was sprinting. And that's how good this AFC West is looking like right now. Let's hit some of these trades one more time. A lot of compensation going to Kansas City. A late first, a second, a couple fourths, and some couple day 3 picks right there. I don't think it's enough, honestly. You couldn't ask for much more, but I just don't think a 29th overall pick in the first round is good enough, right? When you're talking first round picks, you got to go a little deeper than that. Where in the first round? Top 10? Or is it towards the end of the first round where the top 3 receivers have already been picked at this point? And as for Davante Adams, this one feels a little more in the ballpark because at least you get an earlier first round pick and an earlier second round pick as opposed to the Dolphins. So I like the Raiders trade a lot better, at least if you're like the Packers compensation-wise compared to what the Chiefs got. Now the Khalil Mack trade. He teams up with Bosa in L.A. I thought the Bears kind of got fleeced in this trade. I think the Chargers only giving up basically a second and 2023 6. Like, that's so far out of sight, it's not even real, it feels like. So for L.A. to get a star pass rusher, try and get the last bit of juice out of Khalil Mack and return him to the AFC West so he can play his old team twice, a good move in my opinion. And then lastly, but not least, the Broncos once again getting Russell Wilson for, I understand, a lot, a massive haul. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 players, and a 5th round pick. But the Broncos needed a quarterback, and it wasn't going to come from Drew Lock, especially with Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, and all these other teams improving in the AFC. I didn't see anyone I liked in the draft all that much, and if Rodgers was going to stay in Green Bay, pull the trigger, make this deal happen. One more time, AFC West favorite. Denver, Kansas City, every fan base could talk themselves into one of these teams. There's no doubt about it. In fact, you could have 4, you could have a Chiefs guy, Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers guy all walk into a bar and convince someone who has never heard of the NFL why their team is going to win the playoffs, why their team is the favorite in the West. One last time here, asking you guys to subscribe if you have not already, because the way it works at Chat Sports, it's a bit of a democracy, but whoever has the more subscribers gets more studio time. More studio time means live shows, more VODs, the coverage you want for your favorite team. So help us reach 7,000 subscribers. We've crossed 6,500, marching our way to 7K. So please subscribe if you have not already. Help us reach 7K by the end of the month, or even better, 10K before week 1.